Okay, so the Suburban is back. Finally have a moment to myself where I can actually do something. This year's been frightfully busy that way, which in some ways is good, other ways it just means I don't get much time to myself. So let's look at where we're at now with the Suburban. I think most of you should be aware this front axle has been moved forward, so it does fit in the wheel wells a lot better. So far that's doing great. I'm not bumping anything anymore on compression. Haven't given a full flex test yet off-road. Again, life just is horrible that way. You know, I say horrible, I don't mean to be so negative about that, but it is. You work your butt off 6-7 days a week doing the things you need to do. There's a lot of things you would want to fix yourself, but you don't have the time for it. But because you're working that hard, you do have the money to pay someone else to do it. Flip the coin, figure out which we'd like better. On the last road trip I took, and I did like these ridge grapplers on that road trip. It was great. Went all the way up to Washington State to visit family. What I have figured out, these tires, while quiet most of the time, at 80 miles an hour do pick up a resonance. And that is what it is, whatever. On the way back, transmission and transfer case both blew up. Both. Truck's at 209,000 miles, so I guess it's to be expected. And I don't know that it's really going to matter. What are you going to see from this? But 4L80E with a deeper pan. And here we have the transfer case rebuilt. Oh, those guys did. That's one of the things I hadn't even looked at yet. But I think Rob would be happy to know there's just 3 tack welds on it, not a full all the way around perimeter weld. So they rebuilt all that and then tacked that in place. And the people, when I showed doing that had comments about it, realized we don't want that to slip, because this does slip. It's not your standard OBS drive shaft anymore. And this one obviously was rebuilt and redone and lengthened for the fact that the new A-arms go farther forward, but that is where the slip is at. Let's be clear about that in case you're not paying attention and you want to go and comment. I don't need slip there. I have slip here. Having 2 points of slip is a bad idea. So yeah, new transfer case rebuild, new transmission rebuild. Everything's looking cleaner up in there than it has in years and years probably. But I would say also those guys, because I've got a ProCharge 454, they did in fact put all the HD parts that you could imagine. So it's a total HD kit to deal with the upper horsepower of a big block with a ProCharger. It is shifting smoother than I've ever had this truck shift, which is beautiful. Whole lot of other things. I don't know, I could go off on all the things I want to get done on this. But there's one thing I have to get done today, even though it's freaking freezing, Mr. Bigglesworth. There's one thing I got to get done. So on the list of things that kind of just, they piss me off. I don't, obviously in a transmission like that, I break in the middle of Idaho, 3-4 hours from home. I have no choice. I was lucky, very blessed, that we were right next to Jerome, Idaho. So there was some civilization. Found a shop with dudes that know what they're doing for transmission rebuilds. First shop I talked to is like, oh, nobody rebuilds, we'll just order you another transmission. Well, I don't want another transmission. I want a rebuild. Because I don't trust other transmissions. I did that once on my 2000 Tahoe. 4L60E OBS Tahoe, because it's a Z71. I took a TCI off the shelf. It blew up a month later. I don't trust off the shelf. I want someone to get their hands into the guts of the transmission, figure out what's going on in there. And, oh, it's going to be more expensive. Yeah, it is, but it's going to be worth it. Because now this transmission should go another 200,000 miles. At 10,000 miles a year, how long am I getting on that? 20 years. So it'll be fine. However, those guys, as good as they are, good old boys in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. It's not really in the middle of nowhere. It's not too far from Twin Falls. They had this truck up on the lift for days while they were waiting for parts. They had the window down and they're chain smoking in there, which means the interior of my truck now smells like freaking cigarette smoke. I'm lysoling the piss out of it with odor eaters, trying to get that smell to go away, because that's not something me and my family want to smell. We don't smoke. We don't enjoy smoking. We don't enjoy being around smokers. So that pisses me off. This one that I'm getting into When I got the shop back from ProCharger, and of course, you know, the shop that did the ProCharger installation, they didn't spend the time to figure out the belt. I had to spend that time. All the money I gave them, they didn't figure that out. That pisses me off. While the guys had it for the transmission, this was actually pretty cool. If you can see way down in there is a redhead steering box. Well, that was leaking, killing my power steering and all of that, making life just miserable driving this truck. Redhead, to their credit, I call them up and I said, hey, I'm about 12 days over my 12-month warranty, and they said, don't worry about it, we'll send you one. So they sent it to the shop in Idaho, and I sent the broken one, the leaking one, back for the core charge. They were real cool about that. That right there is on the list of companies I would work with over and over and over again because of that level of customer service. After it came back from the shop getting ProCharger installed, I had exhaust leaks. Manifolds were bent, bolts were broken, all that fun stuff. What you see right down here is a plug where an air injection should go. That pump is over down behind the alternator. So shop, I took it to there. What did they do? That line is right here. They just disconnected it and sliced it off there because they couldn't get it out. Well, that particular piece of piping is no longer in production. So I can't even get it. And just one thing after another. I mean, when you hand your truck off to other people, you're going to fall short a lot of times because people don't care about your vehicle the way you care about your vehicle. That's just how it is. It's just what it is. So that's what I'm after today. I have a solution in mind. I'm going to try to get that going so that I can clear the check engine light, which in Utah, up here in Salt Lake County anyway, I have to have those safety and emissions checks and stuff, and you won't pass emissions if you have a check engine light on. Even though I know the check engine light is for smog. Well, they check the smog crap too, so they want to know that everything's hooked up and everything's running the way it's supposed to. To the point where the smog stations here have a camera that the state monitors. So they can't get away with shenanigans. The state is getting that draconian, that titanic, or that tyrannical. Stupid. But I think I have a solution for this. First things first, I got to get down in there and pull that off. Hopefully that plug hasn't been heat cycled in there so much that it's frozen. I hope it comes right off. We're about to find out. Yes, if you're paying attention, I just bought a nice new electric DeWalt impact. And yes, I'm using the air. That's because it's smaller, easier to handle. Do have a straight shot in there. This came out way easier than I thought it might have been, which is nice. Hasn't been in there that long. You can see down in there, that hole right there is what I'm after. And I think I am in luck that my theory of what I'm trying here will work. So this right here, this part you can still get. And this part, nice and shiny and new, is for a 5.7 liter. This is the 7.4 liter, so the 350 or the 454. They don't make this one. They do still make this one. Don't know why. Vagaries of auto supply. What I was trying to figure out is, can I take this piece of it, so basically slice the tube here, weld it back onto there where it needs to be. The biggest problem of that is it possible, is this the same thread? One-handed I can't do it, but checking the threads, yeah, same thread, seems to be same diameter and everything. Slide it on down here, that's not going to stay that way, right? Can't demonstrate it, it's easy. Two-handed I can see. Basically got the same thread, same everything. So that should go in there. So what I need to do is take this, reinstall it where it comes off, figure out where that bolts into, and that sits in there in that hole I was just talking about. So a lot of figuring. I don't think the tube diameters are the same, but that may work in my favor for what I'm about to try to scab together. I create words as much as I create messes. Little side quest is I'm trying to figure out how to get the original one back in there. That smaller trunk line, find it down in there where its outer protective sleeve, that split loom, is starting to get too hot, starting to melt. I don't know what those wires go to. I haven't traced them, but they're part of the main trunk and system. Those getting melted. I don't know who was back in the back of this engine last, but there is a clip the factory has. It's no longer really holding, so I put some zip ties. Yes, I am being that kind of savage, just leaving the tails on there because that stuff got hot. I'm going to need to replace it with the more modern style stuff. That's not for today. To get in there, I'm going to need to remove my charge pipe. So that's what I'm up to next. But it just goes to show, other people don't care about your junk the way you do. And that's probably a good point to segue into people asking, why did I spend so much time on such an old truck? Why don't I get a new one? Why don't I want a new one? You're spending as much money as you could have on a new one. Actually, the way vehicles are costing nowadays, I still haven't put as much into this truck, and this truck has more capability than a new truck would these days. If I was to get a new Suburban to replace this, it wouldn't be near as capable, and I would probably spend more than I've put into this one since 2014. So no, it's not a solution. No, it doesn't solve what I need it to solve, just going and getting a new truck. I'm not a consumer like that. I take care of my junk. And I don't know, that irritates me because I'm just irritated that I have to be spending my time doing this anyway. There's other things I want to do on this truck. There's other things I need to check. There's a whole list of them. But this one I need to get done so I can get that check engine light so I don't miss another code because the check engine light's always on. I actually do like to see those codes when they pop up so I know what I have to address. This truck is 200,000 miles old, built in 1998. Things are aging out. They have to be replaced. That's the game you play when you keep your old junk alive. And honestly, I'd much rather prefer to keep my old junk alive. I paid $5,000 for the truck itself. And yes, I put tens of thousands into it after that, getting it to be a solid axle swap, pro-charged, transmission and transfer case rebuilt, Line X covered beast that it is today. But that is my passion. And if people don't understand your passion, then you can't ever explain it to them. And your passion is tied to your purpose. So don't ever let someone denigrate your passion. That's what I've learned from the Stoics anyway. All right, back at it. I'm delaying. Let's pull this charge pipe out. All right, that's the point of no return. Trying to figure, yeah, I'll never be able to return this one. I'm trying to figure out the tubing. I think I cut still into the bend where the mandrels would be. May want to cut a little lower because I'm seeing deformation. You see the start of a curve right there. I may want to go a little lower. I'm trying to give myself as much room as I need, but I don't think I need much more than about here. It's funny. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I know what I think I know. Dangerous. I was looking at the box. I wasn't sure. And I wasn't sure if they're the same size. Because if you hold them up together here, this one does seem slightly smaller, the one for the 350, which, you know, you'd think that'd be obvious, right? But this has been misshapen by the mandrel bend. So the question is, can I open it up a little bit, plug this in a little bit, then tack weld? I think I'm still too long, and I am just eyeballing this. Right now, I don't have to be exact, because this has wiggle room when it's in there. It does basically just end up being a 90-degree point, and it just goes straight to it. Then that screws into that same place the plug was at. You know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, that should be it. So I do think I do need to, I'm going to go back to the vise, I do need to cut another, about that much, not quite an inch, I don't know. Slam that in there, and I need enough room where I can still get my spot welds in there without interfering with this. Cobbling stuff together to make old stuff work. That is how it goes. And this heat shield, whatever the heck it is, some sort of fiberglass type stuff, I should get more of it. This is kind of shredded. I might see what I've got. Alright, there we go. I am not the best at welding thin stuff, thin sheet metal and stuff, so I had that down like on the speed of 2 and the heat setting of A, at least as far as my Lincoln welder does. So, yeah, they may be splattery and ugly, but at least they're strong. think it will hold pretty well. I don't have much in the way of heat shield for this, so I am just going to double up this on top to keep that fiberglass contained as much as I can. I think what this is all about is simply keeping this heat off of plug wires and sensor wires and stuff. I think that's all it really is for, because the exhaust heat is obviously going to come up through this tube out of the header. So I think that's what that's all about. Hopefully that does pretty well. Alright, so I had a whole lot of footage of me trying something. This piece here is the air injection pipe. It comes from there, the pump's over there under the alternator, and it injects into that hole right there. Well, when the shop that replaced my, I think I already said that, but when they replaced it, they just cut it off. Well, I took one from a 350 and tried scabbing in the end. And before I even cut anything, before I fired up the welder, I checked and see, to my eyes, if these were the same. The threads stack like you'd think they would. They seem to be the same size. I mean, this isn't a very good place to show that, but these threads will not fully engage in that hole, will not tighten down. Which means I'll have an exhaust leak, and I don't want that. So I'm back to square one with this. I'm guessing maybe I can go to an exhaust shop and see if they can do this better than I did. If they can find the right thread that matches this, that goes into there, that seals. Maybe just the 454 one is different enough from the 351 that it doesn't work. So if you got the same situation I've got, this isn't the solution. So I just wasted the better part of an afternoon trying to figure out if I could fix it. I'd have been a hero if I did, but today, nope, this one comes out as a 0. So I'm going to put this plug back together, reassemble my freaking, sure, that's not the charge part, I called it the charge pipe before, but that's the supply pipe. So reassemble all that crap, and I'm back to square one trying to figure this out. I've still got a check engine light on. I'll figure it out, I guess. It pisses me off, GM. You make all this complex bull crap, but then getting a hold of this pipe. Because after, 25 years old this truck is, this got frozen in there. And I'm sure there's guys out there that are way smarter than me about tubing and all that kind of stuff, and they'd know how to flare that. This is a double flare. And be able to put an end on this that does match that. I'm sure there's people out there that can do that. I can't. I'm not. For some reason it didn't work for me. Does that mean this is a factory defect? Does it mean the threads, one's SAE, one's metric? Is there something like that going on? So they're slightly different but similar enough that I thought they would work? I don't know. It's one of those ones where I'm going to have to tap out and find someone who does know. But otherwise, reassemble the truck. It just pisses me off. It's just having these secondary problems created by other shops working on my truck that it pisses me off. If you're going to take care of people's trucks, take care of them like they're yours. I'm pissed. Pissed about all this. Alright, well, first video I've put up in a long time, and it's nothing really progressing. Other than rebuilt transmission, rebuilt transfer case, and the axle where it should be, and I'm still going to run my Thanksgiving trip like I planned to. So stay tuned for that one. You come this far with me to see all my frustration. Thank you for being along with me. We'll catch you on the next one.